Yo, what's going on, guys? Episode 2 of Söze's house. It's actually technically episode 3. I did record one earlier today, but I was trying out a new mic position because it was a little bit more comfortable. And because I'm a moron, I didn't test it beforehand to see, the changes. Because this is a ribbon mic. And I'm not too familiar with them, but I know their positioning even more so than other mics because of the way that it picks up, I guess, and the pattern of the ribbon. It's a lot of technical stuff no one cares about. It sounded like shit, basically. So I'm going to record another 30 minutes because even though I know there's not really that many people, if anyone listening at this point, I can't have something so low quality out there attached to my name. It would bother me. I'd be thinking about it all day, possibly all week. So boom, I'm setting the timer, 30 minutes. So I actually have a couple topics, especially based off of the fact that I recorded earlier, at the forefront of my brain. The first being, I know it's not necessarily brand new. It's definitely been around for, I think, a couple weeks now. But Nick Cannon, right? I got a couple of thoughts on this. Keep in mind, these are just my thoughts. I don't fucking know anything. But I don't know if you've heard, but he apparently said some pretty crazy things like, I'm not even gonna, I don't know everything on the story, so I'm not gonna say what he said at the risk of having misheard or read something that wasn't perfectly true, but said some things about white people and I think Jewish people that from what I've seen are kind of fucked up. But to be honest with you, I don't think the dude should have lost his job. Unpopular opinion, but I think Nick Cannon's he's got to be late 30s, maybe early 40s. No, that sounds too old. But, he's been around for 20, 25 years. He's been building his career up, essentially, from acting, comedy, hip-hop, podcasting, TV, Wild and Out, production. I mean, dude is, at minimum, we can at least say, business smart. You know what I mean? He's obviously not dumb. He's pretty intelligent from what I can tell. And I think he said some wild shit. But I think it's crazy that if you say some wild shit, even, and I think he ended up apologizing. I might be wrong about that. I'm pretty sure he ended up apologizing for what he said. But he still lost his job. And I'm not necessarily bothered by the financial side of losing your job once you're, at a lot of these celebrity stages. There's an argument to be made that if you're making billions not billions, I mean, some people, very few though, but millions of dollars, and you don't have, I'm sure Nick Cannon has a bunch of different revenue sources at this point. I'm sure he invests, maybe he owns property, whatever. But, my thing is, by the time I hit that point, knock on wood, hopefully, where I have millions upon millions of dollars in the bank, I'll hopefully be able to survive just off of that, right? Like, my goal is to stay I'm a pretty minimal person, to be honest with you, even like the furnishings in our apartment are very largely due to like Katie's push and influence. I think it's partially because I grew up kind of poorer. I don't really want a lot of things around the house. So like, if I make a couple million, I would hope that I'm living at a means and being smart with my money from there, to where if I lose my job, like, I'm good. My money is making money. You know what I mean? That's a simple thing to say. Everyone says stuff like that, you know. I don't know exactly how I'm going to put all of that into action, but that's the goal, right? So my whole problem with this whole say something wrong and get fired culture that we're living in amongst celebrities and Hollywood and whatnot today is, take music. Let's say it's 20 years from now. I've become successful. Yeah, if I can't make money from it anymore, that would suck. Hopefully, I have contingency plans, you know what I mean, for finances. Plus, I think most of the people who make money in music, they don't actually make it off the music. They make some off the music, and then they create different avenues that will bring them income, even if they're not putting out another album. You know what I mean? So my whole issue would be that, like, if it's 20 years in, I lose the money, whatever. But to not be able to continue doing the thing that I loved, like take Wild and Out, right? Show's been on for what, like 14 years? That sounds about right. 13, 14 years, somewhere around there. And as I understand it, Nick Cannon's the producer. I'm assuming he was the main guy, from what I can tell. I don't know a lot about the show. But if I had essentially my baby for 13 years and it's growing, and then I say some shit and boom, it's all gone, man, I don't know. Like, I understand if someone says some crazy shit, like I don't know, oh, we should beat the shit out of Jewish people. Like, that would be crazy, right? Like, I kind of get, to an extent, like, I understand people no longer tuning in, being like, all right, well, I don't care for him because he said that. But I think the preemptive firing is a bit of the issue I have. One, because, like, you don't know that your ratings are going to drop. At least I don't think you do. Maybe they have numbers to show that whenever there's a social media issue, sales drop or viewership drops or whatever. But my biggest issue is, like, look, man, he's obviously not dumb, right? Like, he's obviously intelligent. Might not be the smartest guy ever, but he's not dumb. He said some shit that, from what I've read, kind of dumb. But, like, so what? I mean, especially because I don't think getting fired like this is teaching anyone a lesson. Let's say he hated white people. Hypothetically, I don't think he does. I don't think he's a bad dude. I mean, I don't know him, but I know him just as well as the rest of the people on the internet know him, who are freaking out and, you know, have a huge issue with him. I don't know him at all. From what I can tell, from the very limited info I have, seems like a cool enough dude. I don't think he said anything because he hates a specific person or people. I think he just said some crazy shit. And I don't think firing him is gonna I don't think firing makes these people who make mistakes go, oh, you know what? I was wrong. I think realistically it just makes them, in a dark way, if people are fucked up, they're just gonna hide it. And in the short term, I think that will feel nice. I think we'll all be like, oh, well, you know, racism or sexism or any sort of bigotry is gone, when it's not. You know what I mean? It's just now all behind closed doors. I feel like, again, I don't think he has any hate in his heart, but if that's such a weird saying, hate in his heart. I feel like that's something that he could have just had a conversation about. Hell, he could have done a podcast episode or something with people who know a little bit more about the subject, and they could have went back and forth. It could have been educational for everyone involved. You know what I mean? And a real example for society of how discourse should take place. But I do think, flip side, it's crazy that he's suing Viacom for $1.5 billion. On the one hand, yeah, I don't know how much money he would have made continuing Wild and Out. I have no idea, but I have to imagine it's less than $1.5 billion. Like, on the one hand, yeah, it would suck if music got taken away. But if you gave me $1.5 million, I could still make music, but not on your label. That's fine. $1.5 billion, I'll make music myself. If he wins this lawsuit, he's just going to make his own show, and people are still going to watch. You know what I mean? Like, Wild and Out is entertaining. I don't know what it is, but it's entertaining. If he owns the rights, if he's suing and he wins, and hell, maybe he wins the rights or whatever, like, you didn't change anything. You didn't necessarily change his mind. I think it's crazy. My fear is that I'll say some shit in the future, right? It might be right now. It might be the correct thing to say now, but in 30 years, will it be the correct thing to say? I don't know. Things change. You know what I mean? My opinions are way different than my opinions. My opinions right now, way different than my opinions just like 5 years ago. I mean, even less than that, even like 2-3 years ago. And you know, that's life. Things evolve. The problem is there are some opinions I have now. Most of my opinions that I have now are probably going to change by the time I'm 40, right? Some of them are going to slip through the cracks. Some of them just aren't going to come up on the daily. And I don't want to accidentally say something that, like, in 30 years, 20 years, they're like, oh, we don't say that anymore. Like, I remember when I was really young, like, the whole black versus African American thing. Like, I heard that a lot about, like, oh, are black people, or do you have to call them African American? And, like, at some point it flip-flopped, and then I don't know if this was just online, this is just what I saw, or just, like, heard in my communities. I guess it, like, flipped. It went from, like, oh, you shouldn't call them African American, now you should call them black, when originally it was you shouldn't call them, you know what I mean? Like, shit changes like that, and I'm not gonna catch everything. Not that obvious. I mean, whatever. Like, I don't think anything I'm gonna say is gonna be genuinely bad ever, because, like, I'm not a bad person. I'm never going to say something, especially even if it does sound bad, like, I don't mean it badly. I might misspeak or use the wrong words or have the wrong terminology or whatever, but I'm not a bad dude. Like, I don't wish ill will on anyone. So, like, the thought, and I don't think Nick Cannon does either. Now, I might be wrong. You might be a shitty dude. I don't know. But I'm just going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Say he's just a dude who said some crazy shit and then lost his job, which I think is crazy, because if anything, I feel like that would actually create more hate. I don't know if you can stomp out hate with force like that. I think you can get it to hide itself in the short term. You know, like I said, behind closed doors. Oh, okay. Like, there's definitely still fucked up people in the world, right? And I don't think if you take away their jobs, get them fired, get them harassed online, etc., I don't know if that changes them. It might. I might be totally wrong. This is just me spitballing out loud. Actually, what this is just me taking one topic and going way too long on it. So I'm going to switch topics, because that's a whole, I can talk forever on that. And I'm not trying to take up all the time in the world. Damn, it's already been 14 minutes. All right. Let's see. What else? Oh, one other thing I wanted to talk about. We all know the whole LeBron, Kobe, or Jordan argument, right? I'm not trying to talk about basketball. I just use that for a reference. Kind because I saw Snoop Dogg did his top 10 MCs, right? And it just further set into my mind because all 10 of his tops were, older heads. I don't think there was a single rapper who's been like truly hot as far as like, mainstream culture or even like, a little bit below that, since I don't remember all of them off the top of my head. So if I'm insulting someone, I'm really sorry. I'm just the ones I can think of. Been truly hot since like, at least late 90s, maybe early 2000s. And it just goes to show like once you hit a certain age, and I feel like I've kind of hit that age, it's very hard for new things to like really hit you. Like I remember when I was a kid, and I'd hear a new song, I didn't think about that song. And because I didn't have, I'm 26 now, so my catalog of music in my head that I've heard and loved and can compare things to, a lot bigger than when I was 14. And because now that I'm older, I'm really listening. I'm not just like, oh, cool sound. I'm like, oh, I'm actually listening to what you're saying. You know what I mean? I'm listening for like, especially because I'm into music, I listen to like the production side, the instrumental side. So it's a little rare that I'm like, wow, that song, like, I'm going to remember that song forever. Like, there's a lot of songs I remember from my childhood that I haven't listened to in forever that are just in me because, when I was, 15 in my first real relationship or a first real breakup or, a friend's trip in high school was so much fun, or whatever the hell. That song was playing, and so it has an emotional tie. That doesn't really happen very much, I feel like. I think it just goes to show like how influential, obviously, like I'm not saying anything profound, but like childhood is, because, and I know everyone says this about their generation. I feel like my generation, and I really grew up listening to music in like the late 90s to like 2014, 2015, 2016, I would say, is when like music was really, it was something spiritual almost. Like it was outside of consideration. I wasn't analyzing what I was hearing. It was just like, oh, this is on a frequency that I just vibe with. I don't know what it is, but I'm here for it. And as far as hip hop goes, no offense to like a lot of these young cats because they make great music. You know what I mean? But, aside from like club music, which is still good music, it's just my main criteria, especially nowadays, for music that I put into rotation is it has to do two things for me. It has to be a good song, but it has to kind of stand out as not just a song. Like for me when I'm writing, and this is sometimes, a bad thing, but for me, most of the time when I'm writing as if it's almost like spoken word. Like if I spit this without this beat, would it still be like, oh, snap, that was a cool, okay, yeah, that was clever, that was a nice line, oh, okay, punchline. Like, that's the type of music I like. And I don't think a lot of these young kids could rap without a beat and do anything not special. This is just shit. I sound like an old man with opinions. But I don't think they could really stand out. You know what I mean? Like, I think they make great music. And sometimes I think that hip hop, they call, when I was growing up, ironically, hip hop purists, I kind of get what they're saying. Like, you know, it seems like hip hop has really garnished a lot of influence from pop music because a lot of it isn't standalone. Like if I turned off that beat, it wouldn't, I wouldn't be like, oh, I'd be like, okay, he's got a rhythm. Yeah, he's kind of on subject. There's a couple little punchlines, but nothing that like, oh shit, like, oh, that was, oh, okay, I see that cadence. Oh, chopping it up. Like there's something about just a real rapper who can turn the beat off and still give you that vibe that I don't feel like is around too much anymore. As far as in mainstream, I know it exists, but I don't think it's around as much, if we're being honest. And that's just me. Maybe I'm not listening to the right people. Maybe I'm just getting old. I don't know. But I feel like, no offense to any of these cats, I feel like my rappers or my idols growing up are the top rappers ever. Just based upon this fact is because they grew up listening to, like Snoop's top 10, they can do the same style of Snoop's top 10 because they learned from it, right? But they also can incorporate a little bit more mainstream, eloquent, more songwriting, more creative things because production abilities, just exploded in the 2000s. And if you turn the beat off, like no one's questioning that Kendrick, Cole, Logic, Wale, like you can go on and on about the artists that I grew up listening to. You could turn the beat off and they're going to say something poetic. It's not just like, oh, that was a cool line. It jumps back and forth between like poetry and just hard ass punchlines. And that's what I love. But enough of sounding like an old man. I don't even remember why I brought that up, to be honest with you. I forget. Oh. At the same time, like I said, I truly feel like my generation just a little bit better than other generations as far as bars go. Maybe the next generation will prove me wrong, or maybe the next generation will just prove that I've just turned into an old dude who likes the stuff that he likes. Oh, that's why I brought this up. Snoop's list reminded me that, like, I think it's really important to make a conscious effort as you get older to try and stay open. You know what I mean? Like, I've been trying a lot lately to like really get into some of these new artists, and I can't, man. Like, I can't not to any of them, and I can't tell if it's that I genuinely can spot the artistic differences between the people that I love and a lot of these new cats, or if I'm biased. But I try and be honest about my bias, so try and take it into consideration, and I don't think it's that I'm biased. I might be wrong though, you know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe this is just part of growing up, which is funny because I'm not really older than any of these dudes. But that's just kind of how things work now. I feel like every millennial feels 5 to 10, maybe 15 years older than they actually are. I have no idea why we feel like that. I'm sure there's a BuzzFeed article on it. You know what's funny is there probably is a BuzzFeed article on it. That's just how I feel, man. One other thing I wanted to say. I think I got like 5 minutes left. What do I got? 6 minutes left. See, I was pretty close. Gashi, if you haven't heard already, Gashy, just released his new album, 1984. Go peep that. I've been a fan of Gashy's for about 4 years. Yeah, probably about 3.5, 4 years. And ironically, I didn't find his current stuff when I discovered him. I found, I think, his previous album or the previous album. I can't remember correctly. But dude's got a dope sound, man. Like, me personally, my favorite album is Staircases, and I know his music is, it's evolved since then. I would say it's a lot different, but you know what I mean? That's part of art. People evolve. But go listen to 1984. It's his new joint, but also, I'm just being real, go listen to Staircases. Staircases and, let me see. I feel like I'm forgetting something that I should know. Staircases. What other project am I thinking of? Boom, boom. What the hell? Hold on. All right. I actually, for music now, just go to Spotify. I don't trust Google anymore, which is probably a bad thing because I'm basically dependent on Spotify for information about music. And let's not act like they have 1984 just came out. Oh, and 2019 self-titled Gashi. That's the one I was thinking of. Stairs. That's what it's called. 2016 Stairs. Real talk. I love the fuck out of this song or this album. Every single track. I mean, it's go listen to it. It's got a real chill, but like big vibe. I don't know who his producer is. I'm sure I've read it before. I just don't remember off the top of my head. But whoever his producer is, man, his sound is so unique. Like, I hear a lot of people similar to him, but I don't know what it is they're doing that just, it's so chill and very minimal overall, and yet so big. I'm sure it has to do with like reverbs and maybe parallel compressing those reverbs or whatever, but Stairs by Gashi, Gashi. I mean, if you haven't heard of him by now, I mean, that makes sense. There's a bajillion artists in the world and 8 billion people on the planet. And then 2019 Gashi, that's fire too. I dig the fact that like Stairs is more chill. Here's what I like. His vibe is very chill on both albums, a little more so on Stairs, but still like shit that I like to work out to. It's very, and for me, I like to listen to very like heavy stuff like dubstep, hybrid trap, shit like that when I'm working out. And yet his very spatial, chill vibe, it goes hard, man. Anyways, shout out Gashi, 1984 just released. Sounds like I'm doing like an ad for an album, but nah, man, it was in my feed earlier, and I like the dude's music. Fun fact, I think 2016, 2017, I said something about him on IG on my birthday, and he was like, yo, happy birthday, G. And I thought it was crazy because like I cared, right? I'm like, oh shit, Gashi, yo, that's dope. And I find it so crazy how much I cared because like I don't actually know this dude, you know what I mean? Like, but I feel like I do. And then I thought about the fact that like I don't, the album I'm listening to is like I think a year old at the time, maybe a year and a half old. So I really don't know this dude. Like all I know about this dude is the songs that he made a year and a half ago. You know what I mean? Like I feel like if you see someone live in person, you're having a genuine interaction in the physical realm, right? With that person. But if the only thing you know about a person is, I mean, recordings in general, the only thing you know about that person is the past, which I found just like a crazy concept to think about. Like, I'm listening to who this dude was a year and a half ago. And so I'm like, you know, it's 2017, 2018. I'm listening to it. I'm like, yo, I love this dude's music. He's already switched up his style, kind of. I actually love this dude's old music. I don't know. I'm getting a little heady with it. But it brought up on my mind, like, hopefully, obviously, all things go well. I get a pretty big fan base. I can make this a career. I'm going to have to remember in the back of my head that, like, when I talk to fans or just people in general who know who I am, and I've heard people talk about this, it's got to be weird because for you, you're just meeting that person the first time ever. Like, it's not, you don't know them at all, but they feel like they know you, especially if you have, like, you know, the podcast. Like, let's say everything goes well. I'm doing the podcast. I've got music going, yada, 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 whatever other things I get popping. Oh, time's up. I'm going to finish this. Whatever other things I got popping, and someone comes up to me and just starts talking like they know me. Like, that's such a crazy, I mean, maybe because I have a little bit of social anxiety too. That's such a crazy thought to think about. Like, I semi kind of sweat just thinking about it. I'm like, ooh. Because then you have something to live up to too, right? Like, this person's like, oh, I've admired you from afar for years, and now we're finally meeting. And it's like, that sounds rough. That's just something that, you know, again, fingers crossed, all things go well, I'm going to have to get used to. And it just seems so, it's almost kind of scary if you think about it. J. Cole has a line in, I can't remember which song, but he goes like, know me better than I know myself, and that's the danger. Is it Role Models? No. I don't remember what song it is. Anyways, like, I feel like I know something about this dude because I listen to his music, but, like, I don't know. Can you get an accurate representation of who someone actually is through 12 songs? You know what I mean? Because songs, at least how I write them and how I've heard everyone else writes them, they're just snapshots. I was feeling this way in this exact moment. Like, it is not a big thing at all. It's like, sometimes you write a song on a feeling you had for 38 seconds, and it was such a strong feeling, you're like, I'm going to immortalize that in this song. But in reality, it was such a small part of who you are as a person that I don't even know if it has any, like, it might be negligible in Jesus. Nope. Can't think of the word. In comparison? No. It might be such a small factor that, like, it truly doesn't matter. You know what I mean? I don't know, man. Anyways, my time is up. I know I've just been rambling, but I told you guys that's basically just what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna just talk on stuff for the first few episodes, and then I think I'm gonna start inviting some people on. I think I'm gonna start with some, like, local artists, not just music, you know what I mean, but just, like, local people doing things, trying to make moves. I think it'd be cool to pick other people's brains. And, you know, added bonus, it's content. So, and that's what everything's about nowadays. It's about content. On that note, bye, people.